Hi there and welcome to Engineers Are Talking. I'm your host, Don McMillan. This is the show we get to meet engineers up close and personal to really get to know what they're all about. Today we have 5 engineers joining us and we're going to play a little game. What we're going to do is ask them famous sayings and let them finish those sayings. We won't give them the whole sayings, just the beginning part, and let them finish it to see how their brains work. For example, if I said to you, a rolling stone gathers, you'd probably say no moss. But would an engineer answer that? Well, we're going to ask him questions like that today. But first, let's meet our panel of 5 engineers who have joined us on the show today. Our first engineer is a civil engineer. He heads up his company's quality and safety teams. Let's say hi to Chuck. Welcome to the show, Chuck.
Hi, Don. Thanks for having me. Really excited to be here.
Our next guest is a network engineer and IT specialist. He takes care of an entire network at a large corporation. Please say hello to Bruce.
Hey, what's up? You guys got any more Mountain Dew? I couldn't find any more.
Our next panelist was the president of both his chemistry and physics clubs in high school. He went on to become a semiconductor process engineer. I'm talking about Andy.
Present.
Andy is definitely here. Well, this is the age of big data, so our next panelist started out as an actuary, became a data scientist, is now a data engineering analyst. Say hello to Kurt. Kurt is a man of very few words. And our last guest, he has been at IBM for 35 years. He doesn't remember what he studied in college, but he's been doing the same thing in IBM for 35 years. Please say hello to Larry. Hi, Larry.
Oh, yeah. Hey, is this going to take long? Because I got a lot of work to do.
Well, there you have our panel. Let's get to the game. What I have, gentlemen, is a series of famous sayings. I'm going to read you the first part of that saying, and I want you to finish it as you think it should be finished. We're going to start with our safety expert. We're going to start with Chuck. Chuck, finish this famous saying. If it ain't broke,
I'll find something wrong with it.
Okay, let's go to Larry. If it ain't broke,
oh, it will be. And then they'll call me, and then I'll have more work to do.
All right, I think you see how this game goes. Let's move to our next saying. All right, panelists, finish this one. All that glitters
Clearly has variable refractive properties.
Chuck?
It's not safe. It's distracting.
And now to you, Bruce. All that glitters?
Probably been to a strip club.
Great. So far, nobody has actually got one right, and that's what we love about Engineers Are Talking. Let's go to our next expression. Where there's smoke,
There's a change of state.
Kurt, how do you finish this saying? Where there's smoke?
There's pollution.
And let's go to Bruce.
Where there's smoke? No. Definitely a hardware problem. Yeah, not my problem. Hardware problem.
How do you finish this saying? Where there's smoke?
Well, that would bother my asthma.
All right, still no one's got one right. Let's move along. Our next saying. The more things change,
The greater the entropy.
the more things change.
Oh, I don't really like change.
And finally, Larry. The more things change. You know what that means to me? All this work I've been doing for the last several months, working my butt off. You know what that means? Completely useless. Waste of my time. Okay then, let's move to our next question. It's always darkest.
Before daylight savings time.
It's always darkest when the sun goes down and I'm still at work. That's when it's darkest. Can I get back to work now? Amazing. Still, no one has got the actual correct answer yet. Let's move on. Our next one, panelists, please finish this saying. If at first you don't succeed.
There's always Rev 2.
If at first you don't succeed. Again, got to be a hardware problem. And finally, let's go to IBM and Larry. If at first you don't succeed. Oh, boo-hoo, oh, grow up. I got a lot of work to do. Come on. I think I'd like to hear from Chuck here. Chuck, finish this expression. If you build it.
You're going to have to deal with OSHA and the EPA and all kinds of local ordinances and all kinds of protesters, and it's really not worth it. It's not like it was in the old days.
If you build it, it's going to break. And although I'm afraid to ask him, let's go to Larry at IBM. Larry, finish this expression. If you build it, it's going to cost you twice as much and take you 3 times longer to finish. Wow, Larry, you really need a vacation. Which brings me to this next saying. Finish this one, panelists. All work and no play.
Yes, that is correct.
All work and no play? Sounds like a good day to me.
All work and no play pretty much describes my job. All work and no play.
Well, that doesn't really make sense to me because I actually like my work. It's kind of my play. But even at that, I mean, even when you play, that takes a certain amount of work. So that makes no sense. It's not even possible.
All work and no play? Sucks.
Oh, and that's our bell, which means our time is up. Thank you, panelists. And ladies and gentlemen, an amazing thing has happened. None of our engineers was able to correctly finish any of the famous sayings. That's right. None of them got any of them correct. First time that's ever happened here on Engineers Are Talking. It's our first show, so maybe we should have expected that. We are engineers after all. But what was really interesting was that all the engineers had different answers depending on what kind of engineer they were. So we're getting to know engineers and how they think. And that's the purpose of the show. I want to thank all our panelists for joining us. And you can now go back to work, which I know we were bothering you anyway because you really like to work. We know engineers, except for maybe Larry. So go back to work and have some fun. In the meantime, thank you all for joining us. Join us next time on Engineers Are Talking. We'll be asking engineers to finish famous poems. I don't think that's going to go a whole lot better. But join us then. Until then, have a great day, and we'll see you next time on Engineers Are Talking.